Hey guys, sorry about the delay. Can everyone hear me? Just answering the Q&A or the chat. So what I want to do to start this video off is, in the last video I tried to deploy an Ember app, but a couple things went wrong, so I just want to correct that. So I'll start back here at the Nitrous IO just because it's easier for people to follow along if they're on Windows or don't have their proper dev environment set up.
Can't hear anything you're saying.
So the first thing that we need to do is go into our package.json, and inside of dev dependencies under Tori, we can see it's I've changed it to up arrow 0.2.3. They released a new version about a day ago, but there's still a bug in it that prevents you from doing anything. So to do that, just edit the text there, make it 0.2.3. And then after that, you need to go into Node Modules, scroll down until you see Tori, and delete this folder. So once we delete that folder, we can do npm install, and that'll re-download Tori for us at the proper version of 0.2.3. Sorry guys, I made the mistake of not sharing my screen.
I told you couldn't see.
So anyways, what I was doing, I was just on the Nitrous IO app, and then under Tori, it's right at the bottom of dev dependencies. We made it whatever this guy is, up arrow 0.2.3. Inside of the Teach Me How to Authenticate app, under Node Modules, we deleted the Tori folder, and then from the terminal, I ran the command npm install. So this is just running right now. I'll give it a second to go. So then what I did was, inside the society repo, which you can get to from github.com/smucsm/TMHTBluemix. That's all you have to go to. I fixed the tutorial here for the Ember CLI-auth. It's pretty much the same. The only difference I made was when we install Tori, I force it to be that specific version. And then down at the bottom, when it gets to deploy to Bluemix, that's where the real changes happen. So we'll actually go over that here. So I'm just going to occasionally go back to the Q&A and chat. I recommend everyone just do the Q&A, and then we'll all stay there. Or that's where I'll go to answer questions. So npm install can sometimes take a while depending on how much you're downloading and the server you're on. So it looks like it's almost done here. Hopefully almost done here. Okay, so once that is done, we'll just create a server here just to verify everything's working. We'll do Ember server. And what this does is it creates a live reload server. There's a couple warnings here in yellow you'll see, but they're not to worry. The current Ember version they're doing a bunch of upgrades and it's not quite fully working yet. So as you can see right here, it says serving on localhost 4200. So to get there from Nitrous IO, you would just go to preview and then click on the port 4000. It's not going to work. We just have to change that address to 4200. So then from there, we can see our Ember app is running. So that's exactly what we want to be seeing. So we'll just Control-C to stop that process. So now is where the changes are going to happen. So within this tutorial, right at the bottom, deploy to Bluemix is where I changed. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new app. We're not going to use that Ember CLI build pack as I did in the first video. No one should really use that. Ember is a Node application, so we might as well use Bluemix's built-in Node. It's much quicker and works pretty well. So select web, and then SDK for Node.js. I'll click continue. So I'll name my app TMHT, and then we'll call this authenticate. So click finish. So now once this is going, we can see that the Cloud Foundry command line interface here. What you're going to want to do is, assuming you have Cloud Foundry set up, is download the starter code. What this starter code will do is it includes a manifest.yml file, as well as, one second here. There we go. So it includes this manifest.yml, app.js, and package.json. So we already have a package.json, so we're essentially just going to be merging what's from that one into ours, and then we're going to be uploading app.js and manifest.yml. So you can do this through the command line or whatever you're comfortable with. I'm just going to show it through Nitrous here just to keep things simple for everybody. So from the root of the app, I'm going to right-click and click Upload Files. So now I'll just browse for those where I just downloaded and extracted them. So we'll open the manifest.yml and the app.js. Click Upload. So what the app.js is this is a Node.js server. So what it does is it uses Express to run our server, and then the default one uses Jade, as we saw in that other video. What we're going to do is we're just going to delete the lines from app.setViewEngine Jade all the way down to app.get. This is Jade related stuff for rendering the templates, which we don't really want. So we'll delete that. From here, we'll change this to dist. Dist is where Ember CLI builds to by default. So we'll save app.js. And then inside of our package.json, the only other thing that the default one includes is bud comma, and then under dependencies, it adds, actually, you know what, I'll just do this the better way. So what I'll do is npm install -- save express. That'll edit our package.json automatically. So we'll just give that a second to go. Now we can go back to our package.json, and we can see that Express was added to that. So now app.js won't fail when we go to do that. Okay, so this other file, manifest.yml, this is just the information that Bluemix uses when it's deploying the app, so we don't have to change anything for this. But what we do have to change is our environment variables. Is in the old app, we use localhost or one that we already made. But because we already made this on Bluemix, we can see that our URL is right here. So we'll just copy that over. And we'll make sure to keep the HTTP because we need that for our redirect URL. And then as well as saving it here, we also need to go to our GitHub application to save this. Otherwise, GitHub doesn't know where to push to. So I already have the application open. You can get there from github.com/settings/applications and then select the one you made. Again, we already have the client ID in there. So we'll just change the homepage URL as well as the authorization callback URL to match what we just copied from Bluemix. So we click Update Application. So we'll just go back to our checklist here. So what we've done, we've copied app.js and manifest. We've modified package.json to include Tori. We've modified app.js to get rid of the Jade stuff. We've modified our GitHub app to have the proper callback URL. We've updated the redirect URI in environment.js. Now we can actually build the project. So I didn't change that, so I'll just close that. So now from the terminal, we can write Ember build. This will take a second. It should build our entire application. Okay, so as we can see, inside of our app.js, which is our server, we're using /dist. So if we look inside, we have this dist directory now, which is a completely built Ember application. So when we go to put it on Bluemix, it's going to look in this folder for what to serve. So if we go back to the Bluemix dashboard, it'll show us the cf push and then the name of the app. So we'll just copy this command. We'll go over to here. Make sure you're in the root directory of your application before you run the cf push command. I think it's taking a second here, so. Okay, so I guess that didn't copy correctly, so we'll just do it manually. cf push, teach me how to authenticate. So now instead of using that build pack that I showed in the first video, this is using the built-in Node.js environment, so it goes much quicker, and it uses the Express server instead of an Nginx server. So it'll take about a minute or two to upload, and then another minute to start the app. So I'm just going to slide on over to the Q&A and see if there's any questions. Doesn't look like it, so just clear off the... Does anyone have any questions while we wait for it to deploy? Okay, so it's doing the first bit of action here. We can see where it's uploading from. So it's uploading from that Teach Me How to Authenticate folder, which is our Ember application. Shows how big it is and how many files it is. And after that, it'll show the progress of the upload once it gets going. It seemed to be a bit faster from my computer, but I just want to show from Nitrous because it's easier for everyone to follow along in the same environment. Oh, good call, Jacob. So the Q&A, on the left of your Google Hangouts, there's this Q&A button. You click that, and it'll open up your it'll open up this panel on the right that you see here. And I guess Chrome hasn't quite figured out how to get rid of the infinite loop of screens you see. Okay, so the next question is, can you add a collaborator on Bluemix? And yes, you can. So I'm going to go over how to do that. So if we go back to the dashboard, I have to remember how to do this now. You kind of stumped me, Kashif. Good work. I'm not sure. We're going to give that a second, and we'll try and figure out how to do that in a minute here. So this is still uploading. So the next question was a database like MongoDB. So from within your app, you can click Add Service or API. Or if we went back to the dashboard, we can scroll down, and we can see services, Add Service or API. So now if we scroll down, you get to data management. So we can run Mongo Lab, which is a fully managed cloud of MongoDB, or they have a direct instance of MongoDB. So you would click View More on one of these, and it'll show you some information like the plan. So the default one is free. You get 500 megs. So from here, you can select the application you want to bind it to. So we'll just bind it to the one that we've made and create that service. Okay, so from here, we can see that it fully uploaded the application we've been building. And then it's stopping the current instance of the app. Even when you create an app and don't add the starter code and just download it separately, it still serves that until you push something else. So by uploading this, it'll overwrite it. So first it has to stop that instance and then restart the new one. So I hope adding the Mongo didn't break it as we did that. Okay, so we can see that it's starting the instance right now. Okay, so our app is started, it's completed. So if anyone wants to go to this URL here, tmhtauthenticate.mybluemix.net, we open that up and let's hope for the best that it's a working Ember application. Survey says success. So we got the Ember app working. So as you can see, it was minimal changes compared to the tutorial we had. I fully updated this tutorial, so if you want to try it on your own, then you're more than welcome to. So we can log in with GitHub. It'll open the GitHub authentication. I've already accepted it for this app, so it didn't open a pop-up. We can click protected page, and we can now view this. Now we can have an app that requires authentication to get in. So really, I just wanted to show an app that was start to finish that had something cool in it deployed on Bluemix. So to fix the previous video, there you guys go. So what we'll do is we'll fix the database thing, or it might be going already. So from here, we can open the Mongo Lab dashboard by clicking on the service, and then it'll have, whether it's like Node or Redis, it'll have the proper thing there. So I've never actually used Mongo Lab or MongoDB, but we can see the user in the account. So I'm assuming that's what we would need to create and push to and from. So apparently an error occurred. So we'll try doing just vanilla Mongo. So we can scroll down here, click on the little cog and delete the service. So it has to restage the application because it's already bounded to it. So I'll take a minute for the app to restart. But we can try adding the regular Mongo just to see if we can get that working. So we'll choose the app that we bind it to. It gives it a name by default. You could change it if you wanted to. And then you can also view the documentation. So that'll open in a new tab. And then one of the cool things about Bluemix that I'm a really big fan of is when you're logged in, it'll customize your application, customize the documentation to your application and then your language. So because we have a Node.js app, we'll do that app and then JavaScript. And it should update the documentation to match. So we'll just create that to bind it. So here's the documentation I set up with Mongo. Never done it before myself, but it doesn't look like it's too difficult. Okay, so we'll just open up this image here. Okay, so we'll answer Kashif's question on how to add a collaborator. We'll just go through that. Oh. Okay, so we'll go back to our dashboard. Well, I'll just the app's probably, okay, we'll just start it. And then while it's starting, I'll show how to add the collaborator. So under organization, so if I, okay, so I just click on this little graphy branchy thing and then click manage organizations. So from here, I can add users. So as we can see, I've already added Sarah. I could invite a new user. So just enter their first name, last name, and email, and then choose what space you want to invite them to, manager, developer, auditor, and then click invite. So we'll just go back to the dashboard here. It's like the application's having a bit of a fit there. So there's 11 of you guys on there. Is there any other questions you have that didn't get answered in the other video? Did you want me to show something I didn't show? Okay, so the app's running again. So as we can see, we can go to that route and it should be live still, which it is. So again, I'll log out, get kicked out of the protected page. And we have MongoDB set up. So I'm guessing if I click show credentials here, I can get the information for setting it up to my web application. Never done it myself, but I'm sure it isn't too hard. So I'm just going to take a little bit of a breather here, guys. Think of some questions or something you'd like me to show, and then in a minute I'll get back to it. All right, so I got some water, took a little bit of breather. No one has any questions, so I'm just going to play around with Bluemix, and you guys can watch, and I'll describe what I'm doing. So how about we try getting this MongoDB set up? So we've already created the service through the interface, so we don't need that. We've bound the application. So inside of our vcap services environment variable, we'll go over to nitrous here. And I'm pretty sure that environment variable is stored within our app.js, sorry. Actually, I feel like we access that through here. I'm not sure what changes were there, so. Probably this guy. I'm not really sure what's going on there, so just do that. Okay, so we'll go through this question here. Okay, so essentially what Bluemix is it's a platform as a service. It gives you a way to interact with all of IBM's APIs, such as Watson, and they have a bunch of others. We can go through those. It allows you to deploy your applications. It allows you to create mobile and web applications. You can do that using boilerplate code that they provide, or as you saw, I finished off an Ember app that I made previously and deployed it. So really, you can use it as a deployment tool. So to create an application, you do create app, web or mobile, and then it'll let you choose the boilerplate that you want to go with. They have quite a few, from Python, Node, Go, etc. If we want to do a service, we go back to the dashboard, and then you can add a service or API. So essentially, your applications are bound to your services. So your services you can think of as things like your database and then any other integrations you have. So like all the Watson APIs are services that you get to use. What was the next part of the question? So what I have here is from a website called nitrous.io. And what this website gives us is a full running Linux box. You can set up a box like default to Node.js or Ruby on Rails. So if you're on Windows or you only have access to the school computers during the hackathon, I definitely recommend checking this out because it gives you a lot more flexibility than standard Windows or the school computers do. So as we saw, like it's given me a full workspace here. I've created an Ember app. I can run Ember commands, Node commands, install things globally. So like I can do npm, or I'll just do this from the root, sorry. So like I could do npm install -g gulp, and then I'd have the gulp task runner on this box. And then the final question is the use of Cloud Foundry. So what Cloud Foundry is it's an open source platform as a service. It's what Bluemix was built on top of. And it's just a way to interact with the platform, essentially. And from my experience, it's been really positive so far. It's really nice to use to push your applications, to deploy them, to scale them. If you watched the video I did earlier today, we saw that we could easily scale the number of instances my app was running from 1 to 5, rather than having to go through the web interface, which I found can be a little slow. If you're using the nitrous.io app, you can go to Auto Parts, Manage Packages, and then search for Cloud Foundry, and then you can install it. It only takes a few seconds, and the integration that they had with Cloud Foundry is why I chose this over Cloud9. So I hope that answers your question there. Time delay? Sure, why not? So I'm not sure what you see there, but maybe it's a few seconds off. Maybe time is messed up for all of us. Okay, so I'll get back to trying to connect the Mongo database. If anyone else has any questions, I'll keep checking back every few minutes here. Okay, so where was I? I was inside of the application here. go to environment variables. So it looks like it's already, oh, vcap services. Okay, so that's already added to vcap services, so we can skip that step. Okay, so we'll go back to our app.js and add that in. We'll just copy that guy in. So as you can see, I already got the services, so I'll create the Mongo instance there. I'm pretty sure we're going to have to require Mongo. What is time? So Andrew asked me to go to this time.gov website, which essentially shows the time. He just wanted to see the delay that Google Hangouts had. So I'll go into the teach me how to authenticate. I have a feeling I'll need to install something like MongoDB. If anyone knows the right way to do this, please let me know. I've never done this before, so we're kind of doing a live coding session. Then we'll go back to the documentation here. So looks like they're missing a semicolon there. Too many tabs open. Okay, so this question here is, I'm pretty sure this was from JD. So will we have access to MySQL, or do we need a pre-existing class account? So we're not going to be using the SMU CS machine. We're going to be using everything right from Bluemix itself. So as you saw when I did the services under dashboard add a service, there's a MySQL one. You're going to want to do that and then follow the documentation like I've been doing with Mongo. So as we can see on the left here, within the data management tab of or part of the documentation, there's quite a few different ones, such as MySQL or SQL, which I'm pretty sure uses DB2. Yeah, QnA isn't the most friendliest format, that's definitely for sure, but I can only have one open, the Q&A or the chat, so I went with this just because it's easier to answer questions that way. If you want to open the chat, it's along the left side of the Google Hangouts, and it's right here. Only I've talked in, but let's just stick with the Q&A so everyone's on the same page. Okay, so I haven't actually properly been able to get a database set up before. So with MySQL, actually, pretty sure I have. If you give me a second, I can find a Ruby tutorial that integrates with the DB2. All right, so I have this open on my other computer, so I'll just Google it here. And then we can do another tutorial that actually integrates with MySQL. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to exit out of this box here. And then I'm going to shut down and then delete this box. So to delete a box on Nitrous is kind of like GitHub in the way that you have to spell out the repository name, but this you have to do the whole box name. And then I'll set up a template for Ruby on Rails. Just taking a second here. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing this tutorial. This tutorial, it says a lot of words, but it's a lot easier than it's a lot easier than the tutorial makes it out to be. There's quite a bit less, and for some reason, as you can see, the little quoted text will sometimes disappear as you scroll. Not really sure why. Okay, so the box is ready to kill. So you can just copy it from the modal here. So we'll kill that guy. Okay, so now that it's terminated, we can see that our energy or N2O or whatever is back up. So now we have enough to create a new box. We'll do the Ruby Rails default. We'll switch our region to US East, and we'll create that box. That'll allow us to have a fully set up Ruby dev environment, which will make this tutorial run a lot easier. So is anyone able to chat via the Google Plus Hangouts, or is it only me who can talk? Okay, so when you create a new box on Nitrous, it'll pop up with a README, which gives some useful information pertaining to the template box that you set up. So what we'll do is we'll go into our workspace, and it looks like Rails new blog. So it's running bundle install, which gets all of Ruby's dependencies, I believe. But we can see it created this blog directory and set up a full Ruby app. So the reason I chose to do this example is because it sets up to the default MySQL DB2 version. So that's why I decided to go this route. Okay, so for John's question here about PHP, jQuery, and MySQL, after I get this Ruby app set up, we'll play around with it. I'll show you how I would go about that. You can definitely make the app first and then integrate it to Bluemix. Okay, so we'll just finish off this tutorial here. So we can verify it's working by doing Rails S, which starts a server. we have to go into that directory first. Now it says it's listening on port 3000. So if we go up to preview and then went to 3000, we should be able to see our example code. So we'll just Control-C to quit that server, and we'll carry on with the tutorial. So what this command does is it generates a scaffold for us to create blog posts. So let's run that guy. Again, make sure you're in the blog or whatever your app name is. Okay, so that's done relatively quickly. And then from here, we want to do this rake db migrate. So what this does is it allows us to connect to db2. Just make sure I'm not missing anything. It's weird how these things like disappear as I scroll. Okay, so that's successfully migrated. So now I want to go to config and then roots.ruby. From here we copy root2 hashrocket post index. So what this does is it tells the default page to load up. So now if we ran the Rails server again, so close that out, make sure you save it. Run the server, verify it's working. We'll refresh here. And then we can see that the Rails generate we just did. Now we can create new blog posts from a web interface. So from here, we're going to create our Ruby application on the Bluemix website. So what I'll do is I'll go down, create an app, click Web, Ruby on Rails for our boilerplate, click Continue. Oh, teach me how to Ruby. Okay, so then the next thing we want to do after that's created is create the SQL database service. So that's already done. So we'll go back to the dashboard. Scroll down, we'll create a service. It's near the bottom, so I'll just go all the way. There's SQL database, and this one uses DB2. So I know some people are familiar with this. So we'll link this to our Ruby application and create that. It'll take a second to set it up, and then we have to restage it, or restage our application, which essentially redeploys it to set up properly with our app. So what we're going to be doing here is something similar to what we did before. So we're going to download the sample code, and then we're going to rip out that manifest.yml file. So what that lets us do is we put it into our new application, and then that'll give Bluemix the proper information when going to deploy. So there we go. There's the restage notification. I'm just going to close out that server because we're going to have to come back here in a second. Okay, so I'll go back to the dashboard. We can see that it's blinking for some reason, but we can see that the SQL database connected to it. Okay, so I'm not too sure what happened here, but Now I can't find the starter code. So sometimes you'll see the Bluemix interface is a bit slow, a bit laggy. I haven't found a good way to make that work. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to delete this app because we forgot to download the starter code, so I'm not really sure where, or actually we might be able to get it from here. Yeah, it doesn't look like we... Yeah, it's not there, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this because it's not running anyways, and I'll make a new one. So when I delete this app, it's going to automatically delete the SQL database we made. Any services that are bound to an app live with the app. So let's check the Hangouts to make sure there's no other questions. Okay, so now we can see that that's gone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remember to download this sample code when I get to that first screen. Okay, so right from this Cloud Foundry quick starter, we'll just download the starter code. Now I'm going to be smart about it this time. I'm going to leave this open so I have the Cloud Foundry push with the proper app name already there. What I'll do is I'll just extract that zip. I'll go back over to my Nitrous instance and then right click on blog and I'll upload files. So we're just going to get the manifest.yaml. Back to directory. As you can see, I need to clean out my downloads folder. Don't judge me. So once you've selected that manifest.yaml file, upload it, and we'll see it's in the root directory. So we can see now the host is teach me how to Ruby, the name is teach me how to Ruby, and then the domain, the number of instances. So if I want to let this run on 2 instances and use 512 megabytes, I can easily change that. I'm not going to just because I have another app there that I haven't deleted yet. I don't want this to fail. So we'll go back to this tutorial. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to edit the gem file to add this IBM DB gem. And what this does is it gives us the DB2 stuff to connect. So we'll go to the gem file. And where it says SQLite 3, we're just going to replace that with the IBM_DB. Pretty sure. Yeah, that's what it was. And we'll just say use DB2 with Bluemix, just so we don't forget about it. So we'll save our gem file and then go back to the terminal, make sure we're in the blog directory. We haven't moved, so we still are. And then we do bundle install. Oh, apparently I did a keyboard trick I didn't know about. Bundle install. So what this will do is it'll get all of our gems. So because we add the IBM DB, that'll just take a second to get for us. And then after that runs, we'll have to go to the environment production.ruby and then change these 2 things, which will let us put it onto Bluemix. I'll just check for any questions while that goes. Okay, no other questions yet. So again, getting dependencies is what really takes the longest. Oh, there we go, speak of the devil. So we'll go to config environments production.rb. Just close out any other tabs in case that's slowing us down. So from here, we want to change config assets compile and then config serve static assets, both to true. There's that guy. There's that guy. So we make both of those true, save it. So because we downloaded the manifest.yaml file, it automatically knows how to set it up. We've already set up our Cloud Foundry to the proper API. We've already logged in. So now we can push our app. This stupid website. Okay, so we can push the app. We'll just look at this command and go over what it does. So what this says is push the current directory we're in, push it to Bluemix using whatever we have for app name. The -C lets you execute a command immediately after it's uploaded. So this bundle exec rake db migrate pretty much sets it up for db2. So we'll copy that guy, head on over to Nitrous. We'll go here, we'll paste it in, but don't forget to change app name to the app that you made in the Bluemix interface. Oh, I forgot to install Cloud Foundry when I made the Ruby box. So this only takes a few seconds. There we go. We can see that it's uninstalled, so we know it's good. Oh yeah, so I guess we will have to set it up because never did with this box. I forgot we did with the other box. We'll just say -u for username because I'm pretty sure if you just do username, it'll automatically set it up to your proper space and organization, or your default one at least. As we can see, there we go, user org space. So it did do the defaults. So what I said in the first video, you don't have to specify everything other than just your username. And now that we've set that up, we should be able to run this push command. Let's maximize that. As we can see, it's using the manifest file that we brought in. It's updating the app in that organization space. It's uploading, so then it stops the current one, and then now it's starting the new one. So one thing in this blog that it says you can do is cf logs app name. I tried this before, but it didn't work, but we can try it again, see if it works this time, just to see the status as we upload. We'll do cf logs, teach me how to Ruby. And then immediately after, I don't see anything. So I'm not really sure what the intended results from that feature is, but it'd be interesting to know. Okay, so one thing I found when I ran this before is it'll get to the part where it's saying starting the instance and it'll just keep failing. So what this cf logs was supposed to do was tell us when the database was properly created. Last time I just let it run until it died, but this time we'll just give it a little while. And I think we forgot to connect. Yeah, we forgot to add a service. So this guy's probably going to fail. So we'll just Control-C that. So then in here, we'll add the service, choose our Ruby app, click Create. So now when I try to do the db migrate, it should properly do it. My bad, guys. So I'm just going to click overview here because then we should be able to see once it's done. Okay, so again, I'm no Ruby expert, but follow a tutorial, see how it goes. That's generally a good way to make things work. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stop the app because we need to re-push it anyways, but we do have the database properly made and connected now, so this command should work better. So I'll just go over this command while it's going. So Cloud Foundry push the app name on Bluemix, -c for a command immediately after uploading, which in our case is bundle exec rake db migrate, which essentially sets up our Ruby Rails blog to work with db2. Oh. So I guess what I did before was on this memory quota or instances, it actually accepts scroll input, which seems kind of weird to me. So that's why I wasn't able to exit because it was saying unsaved. So we'll just give this a minute here. I'll mute my mic while I get some. So as we can see, it's doing this starting and then down. The last time I did it, did this about, I don't know, for like 5 to 10 minutes, and then it just quit out after a while. So let's see if we can tail the logs this time. So I don't know, I'm gonna have to talk to the IBM guys about this because I'm not sure what it's supposed to do, but from my understanding from this tutorial here is we should be able to see the status as it's pushing, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this about another minute or two, and then I'm going to cancel this command because the database should be set up after about a minute or two. Okay, so once it says starting again, I'll press Control-C to cancel that out. So the next command that we're going to run from the tutorial is the same, except the -c will be null. So the null will just essentially say, clear the previous command and then use the built-in build pack to deploy it. So that should be enough time. We'll just clear this out here and say null. I can zoom in just to show you guys a bit more. So again, it'll do the stuff it usually does, but when it gets to the 0 of 1 instances running, it should actually succeed this time because we're not migrating the database. So once this gets deployed, I'm going to get you guys all to log into the application and make a few posts, and then I can show you the database web interface for modifying the tables and stuff like that. So we'll just give a minute here while it deploys. If anyone has any other questions that they're thinking about, feel free to ask them, and I'll get to them after the PHP one here. Okay, so perfect. Now we see it's running. So if everyone could go to this website right here, TMHTRuby.mybluemix.net. So now here's our simple Ruby app that we made, which lets you add blogs. Let's create a post. So you can edit it, go back. Now it lists it. So if everyone could go to this website and make a couple, it'll make it a bit more interesting. We'll just show that the updating it works. So I'll give you guys another minute to go to that if you want to add something to make it a bit more interesting. You shouldn't need the /post on the URL. It should just work from there. Oh, wrong way. Oh, God. Okay, so now that we have that all set up, what we're going to do, we're going to go to the dashboard, scroll down to our SQL database, click on that guy. We can get some basic information about it, get links to the documentation, and then we can click launch up here, which will launch a web interface to interact with our data, interact with the DB. I see point link to that site, so I'll just paste this in the Google Hangout here. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Thank you, Jacob. So one thing I found is the database web interfaces do take a minute to open up. So if you're more comfortable interacting through the command line, I definitely recommend doing that. So as we can see it loaded up, we can load data that we already have. We can run queries on the database or work with tables. So we'll just go to that. Hopefully someone's added a blog post or two, make this a bit more interesting. So we can click on posts. Oh, browse data. There we go. So look at that. We have a couple blog posts created in our database all set up. So that's pretty cool. What I'll do is I'll add this tutorial that we did to the GitHub repository. So again, that's github.com/smucsm/TMHTBluemix. And then we have a folder called links. And there's a bunch of links in here. If you want to submit a pull request, if you find some or make an issue, I'll gladly add them. But I'll add this Rails blog one to it as well, just in case you want to do this later. So the next question was, I'm planning on using PHP, jQuery, and MySQL for a web and hopefully mobile app. Can I just make the app first and integrate it to Bluemix, or does it have to be Bluemix from the start? So what we'll do here is we'll go back to the dashboard. So I've only used about 1/4 of the memory, so I have no problem making a new app here. So we'll create an app. We'll do web. Go to PHP. So again, from here you can get straight to the documentation that they do that. Create an app. So then from here, if you're comfortable with setting up your own PHP application on your own, all you're going to have to do is download the starter code. Open up the starter code. I'm just going to open this up with Sublime Text for it to be easier for you. So once you get that, you're going to get this manifest.yaml file. It specifies what build pack you're using, the host name, etc. You're just going to want to copy this file directly into your application. So as you can see, this is a starter app. So we have index.php, composer.json. Not really sure what that does. I'm sure it's related to PHP. So, and then what you'll do, you'll make your PHP application, download jQuery, download set it up to MySQL or whatever. And then when you go to push it, right from the Bluemix intro here, once you have the Cloud Foundry API set up and you're logged in, you can just do cf push and then your app name. And then it should be deployed right there. So we could do that, but I don't really think it'll be too interesting. And then to get the database set up, it's going to be very similar. You'll go back to the dashboard, create a new service, choose whatever one you want. So if you want DB2 or just plain old MySQL, or there's Elephant SQL or PostgreSQL, select your application. So we'll do the PHP one, create it. Then again, you'll have to restage the application. Because we haven't pushed anything, it'll just be the same as the starter code we've downloaded. I think the reason they really let you download the starter code like that is because it allows you to get the manifest.yaml file, which is what you really need to make your own application work with Bluemix. But creating it with the PHP build pack, it automatically will set it up to use that build pack, which is what it needs to do when it goes to deploy. So I'm just going to show something else, just because it's another way to do it rather than downloading it that way, is you can go to the Git, and it gives you an overview of how to do it. So to add Git, you click Overview, Add Git. And what this does is it pushes it to the JazzHub, which is essentially IBM's version of GitHub. And then it you can, or you don't have to, but it can populate it with the sample code we downloaded. And then when you do it this way, it allows you to use IBM's JazzHub IDE/text editor. It takes about a minute or two to make the Git repository, but I think it'll be useful just to show this. Okay, so the Git repository has been created. So we can see the Git URL. This is where we can clone it from. Zoomed in a little bit too much there. One thing, when you first sign up for Bluemix and you first go to create an application and click Add Git, it's going to ask you for an alias. This is essentially your profile name for JazzHub. So as you can see, mine is testr0r. It's not really clear what the alias is. You're not able to change it. I've emailed them and asked to change mine, but you really can't. So make sure you pick an alias that you like. So from here, we can click Edit Code, and that'll open up the JazzHub built-in text editor. So it'll show all your projects that you've added on JazzHub, and then it should open up the PHP one that we've just made. So as we can see, it added a couple other things like the .gitignore file, .cfignore, launch configurations, our .git directory. But again, we can just go right to index.php and directly edit it from here. So from there, you can do the standard shortcuts like Command S to save, or go to the File menu and save, Control S if you're on Windows or Linux. And then once you do your changes from JazzHub, just click this little play button. That'll deploy it to Bluemix. And then we can see in this drop-down, it says the current status of the application. And then a couple of the other buttons, it allows you to stop the application, open it directly, open the logs in case you have any issues, and then open the dashboard, which essentially takes you to this page. So as we can see, the status is live across both. So the next thing I'm going to show is the track and plan. Essentially, this is JazzHub's version of GitHub issues. You have to enable it from within your project settings. So if you want to track sprints or any bugs or stuff like that, it's definitely there for you. So far, I haven't had a real reason to switch to JazzHub. Like, it seems like a lack in GitHub, but if you want to keep it simple and use the web interface to edit your files, then it's definitely the way to go, because it lets you deploy right from there, which definitely is a step up over GitHub. You can deploy from GitHub, but it's more set up than JazzHub is. So we can see that our application's running. It's running on one instance, 128 megs of memory quota. We can raise that, lower that if we wanted. So just click on that, and there we go. Here's our new application. Quite fancy, I'd say. So my voice is starting to falter, so if anyone has any other questions, I'd be happy to show them, but if there isn't any other questions, then I don't know. All right, well, I guess no one has any other questions, so we'll wrap this up. Thank you guys for attending. It's been pretty cool to show Bluemix off to you. I uploaded the other video to YouTube, so if you haven't had a chance to watch that yet, feel free to do so. I correct the mistake from the Ember app earlier at the start of this video. This video will be up on YouTube in about half an hour to 40 minutes it takes to process. In the meantime, feel free to check out the Teach Me How to Bluemix repository on GitHub we made. From here, you can access all the links and the tutorials that we've done, as well as submit. If you have any questions, submit an issue on here. Probably the best way to get a response from me. Otherwise, thank you guys for attending, and have a good one.